We live in an era where making a message go viral is no longer a dark art. It is a documented, meticulously analyzed science. Watch how a viral vector propagates. Marketers use these nodes to calculate the likely reach of an idea virus. By applying game theory, they can map the probabilistic path of a concept as it jumps from one person to the next. But that science only applies after an idea already exists. Look at the Apple Newton. It was a personal digital assistant with massive backing and a brilliant engineering team, yet it failed to gain traction. Yet just a few years later, the Palm Pilot, a nearly identical concept, was released and immediately became a cultural phenomenon. We see these successes and fall into a trap. We assume that because we have a reliable formula for mapping how an idea spreads, we must possess a mathematical equation for generating the idea in the first place. But we don't. All the data in the world cannot engineer a genuinely compelling concept. Building that initial spark, inventing a product or a story so remarkable that people cannot ignore it, remains an unpredictable art. Author Elizabeth Gilbert proposes a different lens. Ideas are independent entities. They are energetic, disembodied life forms that exist entirely separate from us. These entities have no physical form of their own, so they are driven by a singular impulse, to be made manifest. To do that, they roam the world searching for an available human partner willing to bring them into reality. Gilbert experienced this firsthand. One day, she heard a true story about a disastrous 1960s highway project in the Brazilian Amazon, where massive bulldozers were swallowed whole by the rainy season. Immediately, a sprawling, thrilling idea for a novel arrived and demanded her attention. Recognizing the knock, she cleared her desk. She bought books, she learned Portuguese, and committed to early mornings. In doing so, she effectively signed a contract with the inspiration, promising her full cooperation to see the project through. Then, real life intervened. A stressful, drawn-out immigration dispute involving her husband forced her to relocate overseas. She packed her research into storage and stepped away from the novel for over 2 years. When her life finally stabilized and she opened those boxes again, the living heart of the story was gone. The notes were there, but the spark had vanished. The idea had grown tired of waiting in a box and moved on. Inspiration is strictly conditional. It requires immediate, active, and sustained partnership. If you ignore an idea while you manage your everyday distractions, it will eventually revoke the contract and find someone else. Even when we do accept an idea's invitation, society hands us a deeply flawed script for how to execute the contract. We are told to embrace the tormented artist stereotype. This is the belief that to produce something worthwhile, you must suffer. You are supposed to wrestle with your demons, sabotage your personal relationships, and essentially bleed to prove your creative legitimacy. In reality, the muse gains nothing from your emotional drama. While you throw a temper tantrum or burn your life down, inspiration is just sitting quietly in the corner, waiting for you to sober up and actually get back to work. There is a far more productive way to approach the process. You can choose to engage in a contract of joyful, humble, and clear-headed cooperation. This flowchart illustrates what that cooperation actually looks like. It is the grueling process of blindly trying an approach and failing. You measure the results, evolve the concept, and repeat the cycle, refining the raw material until it holds shape. Bringing a great concept to life happens through a messy, persistent dialogue with the work. It is a process that relies on endurance rather than a specific formula or the performance of creative suffering. We are left with a clear paradox. You can use data to map how a finished idea spreads from person to person, but you can never force the initial spark into existence. Because that spark is autonomous, you have to accept the terms of the deal. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, an idea will unexpectedly exit your life, or your execution will simply fail. When that happens, do not rage at the universe. Grieve efficiently, say goodbye to the lost project with dignity, and immediately find something else to work on. Keep your hands busy. Unassigned ideas are constantly moving through our world, looking for human attention. Every day, new concepts pass through our lives, searching for a partner who is actually available to do the work. Remaining open and persistent ensures that when a concept finally chooses to visit, you are ready to begin the collaboration.